Of us, and then I'm looking at you like, what the fuck is going on? You're over here.
Yeah, everyone does that, don't they? They categorize
You know
people
what?
in groups.
You know what? You're right. I do. I fucking hate AnCaps, but I know all of them aren't really that stupid.
Only 2/3.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Yeah. But no, we're gonna have a decent conversation. Better than last time.
Last time was good. What do you mean?
No, we had a really great time last time. No, I'm saying like it'll be like, a little bit more organized, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I want to abolish the police.
Yeah, see, that's a little extreme.
Why?
Because people break the law. There has to be law on some level. You can argue about the penalties, you can argue about how many laws, but there has to be some kind of law.
Well, I don't think there has to be laws. I think there has to be rights, and then we could have security forces, protect and establish those rights. But we don't need forced collectivism and laws, no.
So, what's the difference? I think you mentioned this once, that murder shouldn't be illegal. People should have the right to not be murdered. Something like that?
Well, I don't really believe in, like, legality or illegality. I believe in legitimacy and illegitimacy. I think laws are enforced through political organizations and forced collectivism, aka statism. Meanwhile, I think voluntarism is more bonded through more natural means like faith and culture and language and stuff like that. And I think if you establish rights rather than laws, then basically what you're saying is, you have a right to not be murdered or raped or sexually assaulted because you will have negative and positive rights established to you through either an agreement or a constitution or a treaty, which has historically been done through one or the other.
Doesn't someone have to enforce those rights, though?
Yeah, it would be the security forces and the militias. I'm sure we would have a justice system.
So, other than name, how are they different than police?
Well, because armed security guards, they protect people and property. Police, they just enforce the laws, whether just or unjust, via the illegitimate authority of the political organization known as the state.
Okay. I'm down with that, I guess, if those are the terms and definitions.
So you would abolish the police with me?
I guess so, yeah. Why not?
Yeah. How did we agree on that?
Because you agree to security forces and you agree to the positive rights and enforcing positive rights.
Yeah, I'm not an ANCAP. I've thought this through. And I think every developed society has established rights, constitutions, yada yada yada. I just don't think it should be done through centralization or through forced collectivism,
Yeah.
So we don't even have to debate that then, I guess.
Well, we just did.
But we agreed.
Right.
We did debate. Yeah, no, you're right. You see, you're so smart. Okay, so open borders.
See, I'm against that.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So you can't have like a legal system with open borders, because then there's no distinction between one place and another. So if there's open borders, right, then let's say the United States wants a robust welfare system. Everyone will just come here to get the welfare. Or if you have no borders at all, people will just claim the welfare globally. So they could be in Africa and they're like, oh, I'm on the U.S. welfare system right now. So how does that make sense? Like, citizenship becomes meaningless as well with open borders.
Well, a few things. One, open borders is going to create jobs and it's going to boost the GDP, as the economists have told us.
Isn't that a capitalist talking point, though?
It's more of a free market talking point, actually.
Because it's gonna lower wages and stuff.
It's more of a free market talking point, not really capitalist. If I was making a capitalist talking point, I'd be arguing to privatize the means of production for profit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah. So, and in order to get the welfare to begin with, you would have to prove that you worked for us. Like under anarchism, you would, if you join a occupation that is involved with the society or with the commune, then essentially you're going to be registering as a member, or as you would say, a citizen, quote unquote. But they would be a member, and they would get their own member ID. They would have their own badge, and they would just have to work. And once you register, you can just have the goods and services backed by the economy.
Like, for example, my system has a UBI, and so we need to have borders, otherwise everyone will come flooding in and sap.
Well, don't you need to have like a state ID or a birth certificate to obtain such welfare benefits?
You just go through an immigration interview. That's all you have to do.
Oh, that's it. So then you just you just have full rights then.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Well, in your state, I mean, I guess so. But then again, I mean, is it really that bad to let people live as a right?
But there's a distinction between the whole world getting a UBI and one city or one town getting a UBI or one country getting a UBI.
Well, yeah, obviously you're gonna have to have certain sanctions within the economy. That's why I feel like it's better for them to register once they apply for a job, because then that just assures that they're going to be working. Otherwise, why would they apply for a job?
Yeah. But, so one of the policies that we have is if you leave the city, your UBI is paused. So, then you're not part of that community anymore, right? Temporarily. But you're allowed back. And then your UBI turns on when you return. So, isn't that kind of like a border?
No, it's just really more of like a welfare, or a government policy, right? Because it would be enforced through the government. So it'd be more like a government economic policy. Like, if they're leaving your society, I mean, you guys have a right to not have to fund their shit. Not to mention the counter would be, well, I guess you could do currency exchange, but the point is, you don't have to fund their stuff. But when they do come back, and if they do work, I could see that working out.
What if, didn't you say you were in favor of ethno-states?
Whoa! When did I say that?
I thought that was last time when we were talking.
I said I was in favor of voluntarism. I didn't say I was in favor of ethno-states.
I thought you did say that last time we were talking.
I said I support black nationalism, and
that's the same thing.
That's not an ethno-state.
Sure it is.
No, black nationalism only means that black communities should be able to control the politics and the economics of their communities.
Yeah, that's an ethno-state.
Well, no, we're not saying, let's purposely. Well, I'm not a. We're not saying purposely, you know, make black communities. It's just basically like the race version of voluntarism. Like, you should be able to you should be able to control the politics and economics of your community. But I see it more. I see beyond race. Like, I support the idea, but I see things beyond race. Like, I see this as a class struggle, not a race struggle.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's way beyond race, and I think we should be bonded by the same faith, culture, and language, like particularly socialism. I think the working class would be much better if we united on all fronts rather than just one front, and even not just on socialism, just on getting rid of the government so that we can create our own economies and communities.
On a related note, on why I stormed out of that group, what is the definition of socialism?
Socialism is the collective ownership of the means of production as a community as a whole.
Yeah, so the collective is not necessarily the workers. That's my point.
Well, socialism is a school of thought. That's what I've been trying to tell you for a while now. Like, you have Marxist-Leninism, you have libertarian socialism, you have Stalinism, Maoism. What socialism has been debated for centuries. It's just a matter of what type of socialist you are. It's just a school of thought.
Yeah, I have a strong problem with a single word that has such a broad definition.
Why? All you have to do is ask them what kind of socialist they are, or even just basically what they believe in.
It's just way too broad that it becomes meaningless.
It's not too broad because one, there's been many different philosophers, there's been many different schools of thought, just like capitalism. Like, there's not just laissez-faire capitalism, there's social democracy and democratic socialism, depending on what type of democratic socialist you are. But the point is, capitalism and socialism, these aren't just a one-size-fits-all words. These words have been used differently by different philosophers and different thinking points. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you see how I don't call myself a socialist, I call myself a mutualist?
Mutualism is a far-left ideology.
I would consider it centrist.
It's not centrist at all.
Compared to all of the craziness of, like, Maoism and shit, yeah, it's pretty centrist.
Maoism is like far-left authoritarian statism. Mutualism was founded by Joseph Proudhon, who was a far leftist. He believed, obviously, like, if you want to set up your own private enterprise, you should be able to do that. But that's socialism in general. Socialism has always had markets. It's never been... You're thinking of communism. When we're talking about collectivizing all industries, that's communism. But markets and planned economies, like mixed markets...
But the USSR was socialist. That's in the name.
That they were socialist and they also had markets, yes. It wasn't just they didn't collectivize all the industry. Like, you have to understand socialism. If we're talking about socialism, you're collectivizing, let's say, healthcare, education, UBI, housing, stuff like that. And how much you collectivize depends on how much the society sees as a positive right or a general welfare commodity. But communism is when you collectivize 120 of the industries, which is... I'm a mutualist, but I prefer communism.
See, I think that nationalization should be used as little as possible. Like, roads, I agree. Maybe stuff like plumbing and sewer, stuff like that. Yeah, electricity, sure. But even things like utilities, if you have a good contract, if you have a solid contract, you can even avoid nationalization of those sectors. You just have the infrastructure owned by all of the producers of that industry instead of one producer. So it's like collectively owned by all of the electric generation companies or something like that.
But is it owned by the workers though, or is it owned by just the owners of those companies?
Well, as a mutualist, the workers would own the electric generation companies, and then the electric generation companies would own the grid.
So if you're a mutualist, why do you bash leftists? Sometimes.
Because they like authoritarianism on so many levels. Like I said earlier, the 2/3 is the problem, and then the 1/3 is like pretty cool. And you always mix them up. You always.
What have they said in that group that's authoritarian?
I mean, I'll start tagging them for you if you really want.
Yeah, because I genuinely have not seen anything like that.
Someone started tagging me every time an AnCom posts like some transphobic post.
And I mean, they always bitch about. Well, they always talk shit about. Oh, well, leftist men are usually the ones who are winning. What it's like? Well, maybe it's because we're the only ones who understand the difference between gender and sex. Like, you guys are too pussies to like feel your feminine side. You know what I mean?
Hey, I don't mind feeling my feminine side. Like, I like a good romantic comedy, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna chop off my penis and start taking estrogen.
I mean, I like a good rim job. You know what I mean? But I have the balls to say that they don't. And I mean, as long as you understand the difference between gender and sex, then you understand. You know, you don't. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, the libertarian side of me just doesn't care.
Yeah, right. Like, even if you don't necessarily agree with it, you're just like, okay, who gives a fuck? And
right.
Like,
that's his culture. That's his life.
Exactly.
Or her. Sorry, her. I'm being transphobic.
No. Well, I think that's why I like voluntarism, because, you know, me and you both want freedom. We just have a different way of going about it. You know, I want it through, you know, voluntarism, socialism. You want it through monarchism. Well, I mean, you say you're a mutual. I don't get it, though. So are you a monarchist or a mutualist?
Well, see, I'm the monarch who writes the law. So, to create my kingdom, and my kingdom is mutualist.
Would you... Okay, so listen. Can you bear with me for a second?
You're trying to make sense of this?
No, I'm just trying to, like... So say, like, you know, there's like a democratic confederation. There's like an anarchist society next to yours. Like, how would that work?
I don't know. We just trade.
We just trade, but like, would you take me and like have me in your cabinet and be like, hey, you're a delegate. You want to be in my cabinet?
It depends on your skill sets, I guess. I do need engineers and artists. Those are the two categories I need.
Well, I can sing and I can play instruments. So I mean, I guess I can do that. But you want to prove that, you know, your society is diverse, right?
Yeah. Well, we would have the borders. I have the immigration system. So people could have dual citizenship, I suppose.
So what if like we set up like a organization that goes into like the poor communities of your society, and we start like funding them, and what if we start recruiting them? Are you going to do anything about that?
No, but good luck, because the poor are gonna be very well off in my society.
I don't know about that, but you know,
trust me.
But you wouldn't do anything about it?
You're just recruiting them? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, because like eventually I feel like it will naturally associate that way, and then we would have like a kinship.
People might join my society from yours. You got to be worried about the opposite.
I don't think so. Only due to the simple fact that we would be bonded through through human natural association. Like the fact that they chose to like be part of that society, not that they were more forced into it. I think that would be more of a indication of them staying.
Yeah, but there's no reason our two societies couldn't live side by side.
Yeah, like we could have like a party in the castle, and like we can invite all the anarchists from my side, and we can all just have a party, like a demonic sex orgy.
Yeah. I'm more into monogamy, but I'm old school.
Aren't you my age?
In my 30s.
Oh, you're older than me. Yeah, no, I mean, people are into monogamy. Some people are into polygamy. I think eventually polygamy is going to take over the culture. But other than that, like, I mean, yeah, it's really like your setting, your personal setting. I just don't like cheating.
You're a polygamist who doesn't like cheating?
I'm not a polygamist per se. That would be funny though.
You're right.
You cheated on me. No, that would be funny. No, I'm an agnostic spiritualist.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Right? Like that's. I feel like people our age is like around that. You know, you can't go wrong with that. That definition.
I like to trigger people by pretending I'm a Bible thumper.
So you like troll like the internet, like pretending to be like a Bible thumper?
Well, I'm half. I do like the Bible, but I'm not quite sold that that Jesus is coming back. I think Jesus is metaphorically coming back.
But you believe he was real, right?
He was a real person. He was a martyr, yeah.
I believe he was real because, you know, as a spiritualist, I study a lot of near-death experiences. A lot of people who are religious, they do say they see Jesus before they go. And I believe it, because I believe Jesus was a real person, and I believe because so many people prayed it, that Jesus, he gets so many people, you know, wanting him to come there.
His spirit remains alive?
Yeah, his spirit remains alive, yes. There's like the spirit world.
Yeah. I like the prophecies of the Bible are very interesting too.
The prophecies of the Bible, yeah, they're pretty interesting. I'm really into a lot of Buddhism and a lot of Hinduism, stuff like that. Well, like I said, I always have like that agnostic part of me that really doesn't really know what's real.
The craziest part about biblical prophecy is that on the last page of the Bible, the last chapter, it says that when Christ returns, he builds a kingdom, and the kingdom lasts 1,000 years. It's a 1,000-year golden age, and the kingdom is a city. The city is as tall as it is wide, and the people that live in the city don't need the sun or the moon.
They don't need the sun or the moon?
Yeah, because the city is as tall as it is wide. It's like a giant. It's a giant cube.
They're just a giant cube, huh? That's interesting. I mean, a lot of the prophecies of the Bible have been fulfilled. We know that.
Yeah.
But in a 1,000-year golden age, that would be one hell of a thing. I honestly don't think. I think if there is an afterlife, then this world we're in right now, I think it's just the beginning. I think it's getting us ready for what's like more up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like this is the test, and then
yeah, it's basically the test. Like I have this interesting. Do you believe in ghosts and spirits?
Sometimes.
Have you tried psychedelics?
Yes. When I'm under the influence, I certainly do.
Oh yeah, that was one of my fucking that was one of my pet peeves with you. You're okay with psychedelics, but you won't let people do cocaine. Um, what the fuck, Eric?
Yeah, I guess I could legalize cocaine.
Just legalize all drugs. I want you to tell me right now. After this, you're gonna do a referendum for your constitution, and you're gonna legalize all drugs.
No, all drugs is not. Some of them are better than others. Some of them are worse than others.
But you can't. But why do you get to legislate that, sir?
It's for the greater good.
The greater good? How? Prove it.
Okay, go to some like trailer park that's filled with meth and ask people how they're doing mentally.
How does locking them up stop that, let alone make the situation better? I'm just curious.
They can get therapy while they're locked up.
They can get therapy while they're locked up, but at the same breath, how does it stop the addiction, and how does it stop the fact that they're going to be felons now?
No, it's a misdemeanor in my society. It's a light charge.
Still, you're taking them away from their families and their jobs for a victimless crime. I'm just trying to find the legitimacy in the legislation of an act that involves harming nobody.
Well, they're harming themselves.
Which they have a right to do.
Yeah, I mean, you could make that argument. But,
They do. I mean, we all... Burger King and McDonald's harms all of us. We all eat that stuff, you know? There's a lot of things we do that harm animals, or particularly ourselves, but we don't legislate it. I'm just trying to... I mean, because we have the proof that, you know, when you decriminalize drugs, it stops heroin users. It stops drug usage in general. I've never seen any proof that being tough on the war on drugs has ever decreased drug usage.
right. Well, I was going the Christian route, and so I figured I should only have Christian drugs. And Christian drugs to me are all natural substances.
You know, I believe that spiritualism is my personal belief. It governs my personal morals, but I don't believe I should be forcing any of my religious beliefs on anybody else.
Well, like I said earlier with the prophecy, with the 1,000-year golden age, that's what I'm building. I'm manifesting the prophecy. So, you saw my city, right? You saw that 3D city?
Yes.
Yeah, that requires no sun or moon, because it's all indoor lighting.
Oh, okay, so you really are into the...
So there's no windows on that.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, that's fascinating. That's cool. I just feel like, you know, given the evidence that decriminalizing drugs makes the situation better, because I mean, just think about it. Like, when you're legalizing drugs, you're not only creating jobs and revenue for your society. What you're doing is giving people free rehabilitation, and you're giving people access to less harmful drugs. Like, the reason why people are doing crack is because they can't get weed, and so on and so forth. Like, in psychedelics and weed, I feel like those would substitute a lot of the things we see now, especially if we're talking about making it free. And if you have a UBI system, people will be able to afford it.
Well, yeah, we do have cannabis, shrooms, and alcohol. It's our holy trinity.
Right. So, I mean, so are you just willing to say that you'd rather just keep those things illegal just for the sake of the greater good, you said?
Yeah, like, I don't want people, you know, getting addicted to heroin and then overdosing in their apartment and rotting away.
But I'm just curious again, like, what's your proof that the war on drugs helps stop heroin addiction? Because you can't even get the drugs out of the prisons. Like there's drugs in federal prisons right now.
Yeah. Well, minimization is Like making an attempt at minimization.
What does that mean?
Like not having it available in stores over the counter.
We already do that now, and it's in federal prison.
Yeah, I know, but wouldn't it be worse if you could get it at like 7-Eleven?
No, because it would be regulated and less people would die. I mean, there's a lot of people who die from having laced weed, and it's because of the war on drugs. Like, if you end the war on drugs, not only are you ending the gangs and the drug cartels, but you're regulating these drugs and making them more safe. Like fentanyl, you can give people fentanyl now and a safer dose rather than having unregulated black markets do it.
Yeah.
Like it's a win for the economy, and it's a win for the politics of the people. You're giving them freedom on both ways, and you're dealing with the situation. And if you make universal health care free, you're talking about free rehab. But we need to make this a mental health issue, not a criminal issue. Like, as a black person, the crack epidemic, which was created by the CIA, if you do your research, it eradicated black communities. That was chemical warfare. And they purposely got black people addicted to crack cocaine so that they can lock them up in these private prisons. Like, this had nothing to do with making the community safer. This was a whole experiment for them and for the ruling class to create profit.
To tie in with our previous conversation, I originally had all drugs legalized, or at least most drugs legalized, and I changed my mind, right? So that policy difference could be an excuse for having borders, or it could be one reason for having borders, and then a UBI or a different UBI would be another reason to have different borders between areas. And then like different penalties for violent crime. Like some locations will have very strict penalties on violent crime, and others will be like more rehabilitative. So yeah, so that's one reason for borders.
Well, when you say borders in that sense, I would say in an anarchist society, the quote-unquote borders would be the end of our territories. So we would still have defense at those territories for when invasions come. We just wouldn't necessarily be restricting people from coming to our society, because at the end of the day, you can't justify restricting freedom of movement when that freedom of movement hasn't proven to be harm to you or others. So in order to restrict it, you have to naturally restrict it, which entails force. And force from people who aren't harming anybody else, you can't legitimize that. You can't justify that. So I want open borders because, one, I want people to be able to have a society where they can call home. I like the idea of helping people. I think it'll help the economy, and I think it would boost our GDP. And with a labor-backed economy, you're already not dealing with inflation, so you're just creating more jobs. So it's a win-win.
What if I determine that my city is full, my kingdom?
And then we would take all your refugees, and we would create more jobs. I would love that, actually.
But would I have the right to make that determination?
No, well, monarchism, there is no legitimacy for monarchism. You're claiming autonomy and social dominance and subordination over your fellow man. You don't have that right. But, I mean, if we're talking in the status sense, as the leader and ruler, yes, you technically do have a right to enforce your border policy.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so but if you did, that would help us tremendously, because then we would get refugees and they would come for us and work for us, and anybody who commits any crimes, they would be prosecuted and they would be exiled, or maybe community service if it's a petty crime.
The Bible says that the city is 144,000 people, so that's as many as I'm allowed to have.
144,000 people? That's a very small city-state.
Yeah, well, I think I prefer that.
I mean, you're the ruler, man. I mean, you've claimed enough authority and enough force and wealth and guns to assert that authority. So yes, you definitely have earned that.
Oh no, I earn it with quality of law.
Quality of law?
Yeah, the best law you can get. Like, so there's an ideal, right? And everyone's ideal is a little bit different. But the goal is to get as close to that ideal as possible. It's kind of like, being the best person you can be. There's an ideal that you can't quite meet, and everyone has a little bit different. But achieving that ideal system of law is kind of like being the best person you can be. It's like the same kind of goal.
Would you would you create trade deals with our society?
Of course, yeah.
Like, be like we'd be the first to like trade with you guys. That'd be cool.
Well, it would have to be for money, or we could barter, I guess.
Well, we would have. Well, that's not. Yeah, I mean, we would have markets in some places, so yeah, you wouldn't have to barter per se. But I mean, yeah, no, it definitely could barter or trade. I think, naturally speaking, like once we solve the problems of our own people, we'll come together for bigger things like space programs and shit like that, or humanitarian crises.
Right. Yeah, no problem. I think diplomacy can be fun.
Well, war should always be the last option, not the first. That's definitely another thing. Like, we would have to be under an imminent threat to ever attack anybody. That would definitely be a huge thing, and we would have a decentralized intelligence community.
So, what's your take on Ukraine?
I mean, they're both like. I mean, they're defending their territory. Russia is just imperialist as hell. Not saying that Ukraine is any better, but they're the ones who got hit. But I don't agree with the U.S. funding it at all. It's horrible.
Yeah. I think they should just give them Donbass or whatever that place is.
I think Ukraine should just go full on and just invade Russia and just take it all over.
That's a terrible idea, dude.
Why? I mean, they might as well just they started it. They might as well end it.
That's escalation, isn't it?
No, it's ending it. It's not escalation if the country's not going to exist.
But Russia's not really interested in most of Ukraine. They just want that like southeastern section.
Doesn't matter. They killed Ukrainians. Now it's game on. We're gonna take your shit.
It's game on. That sounds like escalation.
We're gonna take your shit. You want to fuck with us? We're gonna fuck with you. We're gonna take your shit. We're gonna pillage you, and we're not gonna stop until your whole shit, your government's blown up. We're gonna blow up the fucking, what is that thing that Putin lives in?
The Kremlin?
Yeah, we're gonna blow up the Kremlin, and that's just how it's gonna go.
Well, I don't think they could do that without our help.
I mean, that's how I would want my society to do it. Like if you attack us and we didn't do shit to you, like, your land belongs to us.
Yeah. What was our last topic? Is socialism preferable to capitalism? Once again, just the definitions is my issue. I think mutualism is preferable to capitalism.
But mutualism is socialism.
See, I just don't agree with that statement.
Then you fundamentally disagree with the founder of mutualism.
How can Stalinism and mutualism be the same under the same umbrella?
They're not. Stalinism is statism. Mutualism is anarchism.
Exactly, but you're saying they're both socialism.
Well, again, socialism is a school of thought. When we're talking about Stalinism, we're particularly talking about a statist socialist school of thought. Mutualism is the anarchist philosophy.
So maybe we should just branch out with our terms a little bit.
I mean, well, you're a monarchist. I mean, based on what you've told me, you want monarchism, theocratic monarchism. So I'm just surprised. I mean, maybe your economics would be like decentralized and mutualistic, decentralized. But I mean, a mutualist is an anarchist philosophy. I'm surprised you're calling yourself a mutualist.
Well, I just believe that one person is capable of writing the law, or maybe like a small group of people, and that law can actually be quite good or better than hundreds and hundreds of councils writing law.
Well, you're not wrong that one ruler can do it, but should they? No, of course not. And it wouldn't be hundreds of councils per se. It would just essentially be a bottom-up system where first it would be neighborhoods and groups and organizations. Then they would create their local councils, then their regional councils. Then, depending on how big they want to be and how they want to organize, as long as it's bottom-up, as long as it's direct democracy, you have no ruling class. And no ruling class is the only legitimate system, because what you're saying is there is no God, no ruler or master. You own yourself as an individual. You have autonomy over yourself, including your labor, and no businessman or monarch or ruler or anybody, whether on the political or economic aspect of things. They don't have a right to restrict your right to live life the way you see fit. I think libertarianism is the only legitimate system because of that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You saw my articles of syndication, right? It's the corporate one?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, just fundamentally, I just think even with the direct democracy with the workers being able to make decisions, even they are stable to enforce tyranny. And I think democracy has to be under libertarian principles. Otherwise, it can just be another form of tyranny, like oligarchy or dictatorship.
Yeah. I prefer super majorities for that reason.
I prefer unanimous.
Yeah, but then you're never going to get anything done. That's the problem. There's a gray area somewhere in there.
That's not true, because you had Native American nations doing that, particularly the Haudenosaunee. They were around for hundreds of years before U.S. imperialism took them down, and they were able to exist.
What was that? How many people are unanimous? Like 20 people? 15
well,
people?
So basically it would basically work like different groups and organizations under one confederation. And with the Haudenosaunee particularly, it was like 50 delegates from each of the 5 nations. And they would put themselves in groups based on their tribe. So instead of like all 50 talking at once, it would be 5 to 8 of the same tribe members speaking at once. And one tribe, would propose a policy, usually foreign policy, and they would speak amongst themselves while everybody listened in. And they would have to unanimously vote. And you know, when you're in that type of situation, it's easy to have a unanimous decision because either it's a yes or a no. So people know, people know they're going to have to make a decision. So that group is going to say yes. If that group says yes, then the next group decides if they want to pass it. Then the next group, and so on, and then that's how things are passed.
Okay. It's still, I don't know. I think, with my system, it's 5/6 to change the law, which is not far from unanimous.
Yeah, see, I think democracy should be used for organization and cooperation. I don't think it should be for enforcing laws or anything like that onto the people. I think the authority should come within the people.
But think of how much power that gives, one holdout.
That gives everybody power, which means everybody would have one say and one vote. Nobody would have more power over anybody else.
No, if you have, let's say, 49 delegates saying yes and one delegate saying no, that one delegate saying no suddenly has control of the institution.
No, because that one delegate saying no, it would stop any policy from being passed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it has to be unanimous. He doesn't have power. They have power, but at the same breath, everybody has one say and one vote. Nobody has power over anybody else. It's a system where everybody has to play the same rules. Everybody has the same authority.
Well, influence might be a better word, I guess.
Influence. Yeah, that is a better, influence. But you also have to remember it would be established rights too. You can't vote on suppressing free speech. There's an article or amendment within that agreement, treaty, or constitution that says everybody has a right to free speech, or everybody has a right to own a gun. You know what I mean? Or just generalization, everybody has a right to liberty, equality, and solidarity, or life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Generalizations, specific amendments, just so that any type of vote that's going on, there are certain things that are just off the table that you can't vote on. And democracy should be specifically for organizing and decision making, not forcing or coercing anybody.
Yeah. So you would call yourself an anarcho-communist, right?
I would call myself a voluntarist. But I am a communist, yeah. I am a communist, technically.
Alright. It's just such a better word than socialism, or it's more precise.
Communism?
The AnCom.
Yeah, anarcho-communism. Why do you say that? I'm just curious.
Because socialism is such a wide spectrum. That it's meaningless.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And communism literally just means moneyless, classless, and stateless. Yeah, no. I mean, I love the idea of communism because what communism says to me is, even money's not going to restrict you. We're just going to have a labor-backed economy where all the goods and services are going to be provided by everybody within our voluntarist society. Everybody's going to have access to 120 of the industries, and that's another reason why I prefer socialism, because you get more choice, you get more freedom, and you get access to markets that you would have never gotten access to under a capitalist system.
If there are no shortages.
Yeah, but capitalism has shortages all the time.
Not really.
Yes, of course.
What, eggs?
All the time. There's a demand for housing right now, and it's not meeting that despite there's more vacant houses than people. Capitalism restricts liberty via money.
Yeah, well, that's more of a asset than a commodity. Like, the asset is having a shortage because it's the speculation, all the speculators. So,
I just think you're denying the fact that there are shortages and rations in capitalist and socialist economies. Like people, they're like there's just the efficiency of socialism is much better because it's basing things off of need, like biological things that increase your individualism as a person. Like under capitalism, either you have the money or you don't. So it doesn't give you freedom; it gives you privileges, and those privileges are given based on how much money you have. And then on top of that, it's a top-down system. Like the higher echelon dictates the economy and the politics.
well, yeah, I have an issue with that.
Right.
Like, lobbying and stuff.
Not even just lobbying, like capitalism can come in the form of any type of oligarchy or dictatorship. Like it can be like a mafia oligarchy. Like, can you imagine an anarcho-capitalist society where like the mob is running major cities? Like that can happen. It's not something that's theoretical. It can happen. They have had power, and if you get rid of the state, or if you just put more power into the state, like it goes one or two ways. You're just gonna have either more private tyranny or more state tyranny.
Well, some people compare our current system to a mafia.
I mean, the mafia literally runs the country. I mean, they can't. The private enterprise rules the country. Like, regardless of what you want to call them, the state is just a puppet. They just write the policy and they take the money. They don't actually run things, right?
I would say they do.
The state?
Yeah, of course the state runs things. They can print money. They tax.
I mean,
They employ how many million
hierarchy.
people?
No, I agree they're the official hierarchy, but the unofficial hierarchy is the people who pay them to write the policy that rigs the market in their favor. Like at the end of the day, like the Federal Reserve is not owned by the country or the government, it's owned by private stockholders.
Yeah. But the income of the government is so far beyond any of the billionaires. If you added up all of the billionaires, it would be like 1.5 years of income tax.
Well, you know, the currency and money is getting so bad that they're trying to go to a universal money system.
Central bank digital currency.
I don't know if it's central bank, but it's going to be universal. I hope it's not a central bank, because then we'll just run into the same fucking problems. It's just going to be on an international level. Like I hope that's not how they're going to do it. But
That's what they want to do.
Oh well, of course that's what they want to do. They want a one world government. It'd be much easier for them. Which is why I'm so for decentralization. Like, the U.S. system is a centralized system, which is why I have to laugh at the minarchists in the group that say they're libertarian. It's like, no, you're a reformist and you want a centralized system. You just want like only the feds to fund the police, the courts, and the military. That's it. But you are a centralist. You are a centralist.
Yeah. I mean, the vast majority of people want a centralized military and courts, so that's not too outrageous.
The problem I have with centralized courts, like the Supreme Court, is sure, they have the power to give hundreds of millions of people freedom, but at the same breath, Aaron, they have the power to restrict freedom from hundreds of millions of people. I mean, look what they did with the abortion. Look what they did with Roe v. Wade. Like
Yeah.
nine people got to decide the fate of 120 million women, and that's not fair. I believe in a decentralized justice system, like not even a county or like I would say it would have to be on a community level. Like that's how decentralized I want it, because I want any type of governing body to have as less power on as less people as possible. But if you connect them all together, you can still have millions and billions of people all bonded by the same language, culture, and faith. That's why, particularly, I'm a Democratic Confederalist. I believe in different groups and organizations coming together rather than all of us being under one flag. I just think it's better that way, rather than having a centralized system that can give you the power over hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right. You get it. And it's like we could still have organized military without it being centralized. I mean, look at the Kurds. Like, they're Democratic Confederalists, and they were the biggest fighting force against ISIS. And they have a decentralized military, and they have a stateless democracy.
Who's that? The Kurds?
Yeah, Rojava, Syria.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. I mean, stateless democracies we have many examples of stateless democracies. The Haudenosaunee, Rojava, Syria, the CNT-FIA, the Zapatistas in Chiapas, Mexico. I think even Athena, Greece had direct democracy. Yeah, they did. They had direct democracy too. They just had it more of a statist version of it. But we have many examples of direct democracy being able to work. It's just a matter of statist and capitalist imperialism, because that's the only reason you see any of these societies ever failing. Not saying all of them failed because of that, but I mean the vast majority. I have yet to hear one capitalist tell me one socialist society, quote unquote, that failed specifically due to left-wing policy.
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty.
I mean, I've asked for years. I've asked for 3 years now. Have not gotten one.
What about central planning? Do you think that could solve or fail a society?
I think that's government policy, not left-wing policy.
Like profit sharing? Is that what you're talking about?
You said central planning, right?
Well, left-wing policy, you mean like profit sharing?
When I say left-wing policy, things that what's the word? Descend or disintegrate social and economic hierarchy, policies that promote egalitarianism, social equality, things of that nature. That's what I mean left-wing policy.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about central planning, like Stalin and Mao and whatever fucking bullshit socialist dictator you want to give us, like, this is all government policy. Like the famines in China, like famines in general, these are man-made. Famines aren't things that naturally occur generally. Like when we're talking about the authoritarianism we saw within these societies, this is government policy. This is state mandates. Even just look at capitalist societies.
Hello. You disconnected. We're experiencing some technical difficulties. I can't hear you. Do 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 do. Boop, 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 boop. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we may be wrapping it up there. It has been 1 hour, so I think that might be a good time. Decent conclusions have been came to, and I think I may have changed my mind on a couple of things. I softened up the borders a little bit, not too hard on the borders, but I do think they have their place as a filter. And he agreed on a couple points too, so I think it was also very, very productive, as usual. Can you hear me? Try reconnecting. Maybe I'll try too. Hello?